The first time I noticed something was wrong, my daughter Lily was 3 months old. I'd left her with my mother-in-law for 45 minutes while I ran to the grocery store. Nothing major, just a quick trip to grab diapers and formula for emergencies, even though I was exclusively breastfeeding. My mother-in-law, Patricia, had been begging to watch Lily since the day we brought her home from the hospital. She'd raised 3 boys, she said. She knew what she was doing. She missed having a baby in the house. My husband, Ryan, thought it would be good for me to get out of the house alone for a bit. "You've been with her 24/7 since she was born," he'd said that morning. "Let my mom help. You need a break." So I'd agreed, pumped a bottle just in case, left detailed instructions, kissed Lily's perfect little forehead, and promised I'd be back soon. When I returned, Patricia was rocking Lily in the nursery, humming softly. The scene was peaceful, maternal, exactly what you'd want to see. Except Lily wasn't hungry. I was engorged. My breasts felt like rocks. I'd been gone for 45 minutes, and Lily was due to eat. She always ate every 2.5 to 3 hours like clockwork. She should have been screaming. But she was content, drowsy, full. "Did she drink the bottle?" I asked Patricia, trying to keep my voice light, even though alarm bells were already ringing in my head. Patricia looked up, smiled that warm grandmother smile. "Oh, she fussed a little, but I got her settled. She's such a good baby, Sarah, just like Ryan was." "But did she eat? Did you give her the bottle I pumped?" "She didn't seem hungry, sweetheart. I just rocked her and she calmed right down." I looked at the bottle I'd left in the refrigerator. Still full, untouched. "Patricia, I've been gone almost an hour. She should be starving. When does she eat? She eats every 3 hours. Every baby is different, dear. Maybe she's just not as hungry as you think. You first-time mothers always worry so much." The comment stung. The dismissal of my concern, the implication that I was being an anxious, overreactive new mom. But I pushed it down. Maybe she was right. Maybe Lily had just been sleepy. Maybe I was overthinking. Except my breasts were screaming at me. My body knew Lily should have eaten. My milk supply was telling me something was wrong. I took Lily from Patricia's arms and went to the nursery to feed her. She latched, but half-heartedly. She wasn't frantic the way she usually was when she was hungry. She nursed for maybe 5 minutes and then fell asleep. That wasn't normal. That wasn't how Lily ate. Something was wrong. I just didn't know what yet. It happened 3 more times over the next 2 weeks. Each time I left Lily with Patricia for a short errand, I'd come home to find my daughter suspiciously content. Not hungry, not desperate for my breast the way she should have been. And each time the bottle I'd left was untouched. "She's just such an easy baby," Patricia would say. "Barely cries at all when you're gone." "Did you give her the bottle?" I'd ask. "She didn't want it." "She's fine, Sarah. Stop worrying so much." But I was worried. Something felt deeply wrong. Maternal instinct, that primal, visceral thing that kicks in the moment your baby is born, was screaming at me that something wasn't right. I mentioned it to Ryan one night after Lily was asleep. "Your mom keeps watching Lily, and every time I come home, Lily isn't hungry. The bottles I leave are never used. It doesn't make sense." Ryan looked up from his phone. "Maybe she's sleeping more when you're gone. Babies do that. They're more relaxed when there's no stress." "No stress? Ryan, I'm not stressed around our daughter." "I didn't mean it like that. I just mean maybe she picks up on your anxiety or something. Mom's more experienced, more calm. Lily probably just sleeps better with her." "Babies don't sleep through feeding times, Ryan. Not 3-month-old babies who eat every 3 hours like clockwork." "So what are you saying? That my mom is doing something wrong?" "I'm saying something doesn't add up." Ryan sighed that particular sigh, the one that meant I was being irrational. Sarah, you've been exhausted. You're not sleeping. You're healing from birth. Maybe you're not reading Lily's cues right. Maybe she's not as hungry as you think. I'm her mother. I know when she's hungry. And my mother raised 3 kids. She knows what she's doing. The conversation ended there, but the unease didn't. I had only been gone 20 minutes, just a quick run to the pharmacy for nipple cream because breastfeeding was brutal on my body. I should have been gone 45 minutes, but the pharmacy line was short and I rushed back because I missed my baby. I let myself in quietly, didn't call out. Something told me to be silent. I could hear Patricia in the nursery, hear her humming, hear Lily making those small, contented baby sounds that meant she was eating. But I hadn't left a bottle. I'd deliberately not pumped this time, testing my theory. If Lily got hungry, Patricia would have to call me or give her the emergency formula. There was no breast milk available. So what was Lily eating? I walked down the hall quietly. The nursery door was cracked open. I could see inside. And what I saw made my blood turn to ice. Patricia was sitting in the rocking chair. My rocking chair, the one where I nursed Lily every day, multiple times a day, the one where I'd spent countless hours bonding with my daughter, providing her with everything she needed from my own body. And Patricia had Lily at her breast, not over her shirt was pulled up. Patricia's breast was exposed, and Lily was latched onto it, nursing. My mother-in-law was breastfeeding my baby. I stood frozen in the hallway, my brain unable to process what I was seeing. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. There was no possible universe in which what I was witnessing was actually happening. But it was. Patricia was breastfeeding my 3-month-old daughter. I must have made a sound, a gasp, a whimper, something, because Patricia's head snapped up. She saw me standing there. And instead of looking shocked or guilty or horrified, she smiled. "Oh, Sarah, you're back early. I was just helping Lily. She was fussing, and I remembered how to soothe babies." "What are you doing?" My voice came out strangled, barely above a whisper. "You're feeding her, sweetie. She was hungry, and you weren't here, so You're breastfeeding my baby? Well, yes, but it's not what you think." I crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled Lily off Patricia's breast. My daughter started crying, confused and upset at being interrupted mid-feeding, but I didn't care. I held her against my chest, putting my body between her and this woman who had just violated her in a way I couldn't even begin to process. "How?" I demanded. "How is this even possible? You're 62 years old. You went through menopause decades ago." Patricia calmly pulled her shirt down, adjusting herself like this was a normal conversation, like she hadn't just been caught doing something unspeakable. "It's called induced lactation, dear. It's perfectly natural. Women can breastfeed even if they haven't given birth. It just takes some effort and dedication." Effort and dedication? You've been inducing lactation to breastfeed my daughter without my knowledge and consent? Sarah, you're overreacting. I'm overreacting? You've been secretly breastfeeding my baby? I'm helping you. Your milk supply isn't sufficient. Lily is always hungry when you're done feeding her. I can see it. So I've been supplementing. My milk supply is fine. Lily is thriving. She's in the 95th percentile for weight. She doesn't need supplementing. But she's always still hungry after you feed her. I can tell. A grandmother knows these things. No, you don't get to decide that. You don't get to decide my milk isn't enough and then take it upon yourself to... Tut. I couldn't even say it. The words felt too horrifying to speak out loud. Patricia stood up, her face hardening. I was trying to bond with my granddaughter. Breastfeeding is the most natural way to bond with a baby. I missed that with my boys. I couldn't breastfeed them successfully. But with Lily, I have a second chance. I can give her what I couldn't give my own children. She's not your child. She's my child. You don't have a second chance with someone else's baby. I'm her grandmother. You're a stranger who just assaulted my infant daughter." Patricia's face went pale. Assault? Sarah, that's a very serious accusation. It is assault. You put your breast in my baby's mouth without consent. That's sexual assault of a minor. Don't be ridiculous. I'm her grandmother. I was feeding her. There's nothing sexual about breastfeeding. There's something deeply wrong about doing it without the mother's knowledge or permission. There's something criminal about inducing lactation specifically to breastfeed someone else's child. I was shaking now. Rage and violation and maternal protective instinct all colliding in my chest. Lily was crying in my arms, sensing my distress, and that made me even angrier. Patricia had upset my daughter, had violated our bond, had done something so fundamentally wrong that I couldn't even articulate how deeply it had damaged something essential between us. "Get out," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "Get out of my house right now." "Sarah, please, let's talk about this like adults." "Get out!" Patricia grabbed her purse, her face a mixture of hurt and indignation. "You're going to regret this. When you calm down, you'll realize I was only trying to help. You'll realize you're keeping Lily from her grandmother over nothing." "This isn't nothing. This is everything, and you're never being alone with my daughter again, ever." Patricia left. I locked the door behind her, and then I sank to the floor of my foyer, holding Lily against my chest, and sobbed. Ryan didn't believe me at first. "That's insane," he said when he got home from work and I told him what had happened. "My mother would never do something like that." "I saw it with my own eyes, Ryan. She had Lily at her breast. She was feeding her." "Maybe you misunderstood what you saw." "How do you misunderstand breastfeeding? She admitted it. She said she'd been inducing lactation. She said my milk supply wasn't enough, so she was supplementing." Ryan sat down heavily on the couch, his face pale. "Inducing lactation? That's a real thing?" "Yes, women who adopt can do it. Women who want to breastfeed but didn't give birth can do it. It takes months of pumping and hormones and dedication. Your mother has been planning this. This wasn't spontaneous. She's been working toward this for months." "But why? Why would she do that?" "She said she wanted to bond with Lily, that she didn't get to breastfeed successfully with you and your brothers, and this was her second chance." Ryan put his head in his hands. "Oh my God." "Ryan, she violated our daughter. She put her breast in Lily's mouth without permission. She's been doing this for weeks. Every time I left Lily with her, she was feeding her. That's why Lily wasn't hungry when I got home." "We need to call the police." The words surprised me. I hadn't thought that far ahead. But Ryan was right. This wasn't just a boundary violation or a family disagreement. This was a crime. "Are you sure?" I asked. "She's your mother." "She assaulted our infant daughter." Ryan's voice was hard, flat. "I don't care if she's my mother. That's not okay. That's illegal. That's—" He trailed off, unable to find words sufficient for what his mother had done. We called the police that night. The officer who arrived was a woman in her 40s, Officer Martinez. She listened to my story with a carefully neutral expression, taking notes. "So your mother-in-law was breastfeeding your infant daughter without your knowledge or consent," she repeated when I finished. "Yes." "And you witnessed this yourself?" "Yes, I saw her with Lily at her breast. She admitted she'd been inducing lactation specifically to feed my daughter." "Did she say why she did this?" "She said she wanted to bond with Lily, that my milk supply wasn't sufficient and she was helping." Officer Martinez's expression remained neutral, but I saw something flicker in her eyes. Disgust, maybe, or anger. "I need to be honest with you," she said carefully. This is a very unusual case. I've been an officer for 20 years and I've never encountered anything like this. That being said, what your mother-in-law did could potentially be classified as assault of a minor, specifically sexual assault. The words hung in the air. Sexual assault of my baby. Ryan made a sound like he'd been punched. However, Officer Martinez continued, prosecuting a case like this will be difficult. Your mother-in-law will argue she was caring for the baby, that breastfeeding isn't sexual, that she had no ill intent. A defense attorney will make this about grandmother's rights and family conflict rather than assault. But she did it without consent, I said. Doesn't that matter? It absolutely matters, and what she did was wrong, but proving criminal intent in court will be challenging. I'm not saying don't pursue this. I'm saying be prepared for a difficult legal battle. So what should we do? Asked Ryan. First, document everything. Write down exactly what happened, when it happened, and what was said. If you have any text messages or emails where your mother-in-law mentions breastfeeding or milk supply, save those. Second, take your daughter to the pediatrician immediately. Get her checked out. Make sure there's a medical record of this visit and what you're reporting. Third, consider filing for a restraining order. Even if the criminal case doesn't go anywhere, you can legally prevent your mother-in-law from coming near your daughter. What about Child Protective Services? I asked. Will they get involved? Possibly. When we file the report, CPS may open an investigation, but since you're the one reporting and you've taken steps to protect your daughter, they'll likely just interview you, verify that your daughter is safe, and close the case. You're not the ones who did anything wrong. Officer Martinez took our formal statements. She photographed the nursery, the rocking chair, everything. She gave us a case number and told us a detective would follow up within 48 hours. After she left, Ryan and I sat in silence. My mother did this, he finally said. My mother assaulted our daughter. I know. I don't understand. I don't understand how someone could do this, how someone could think this was okay. I don't either. Sarah, I'm so sorry. You tried to tell me something was wrong and I dismissed you. I told you that you were anxious, that you were overthinking. I chose my mother's word over yours. You didn't know. I should have listened to you. You're Lily's mother. You knew something was wrong, and I made you feel crazy for noticing. I didn't have words to respond to that. He was right. He'd dismissed my concerns. He'd made me doubt my own maternal instinct. And in doing so, he'd allowed his mother continued access to our daughter, continued opportunity to violate her. But he was also my husband, the father of my child, and he was hurting too. We'll get through this, I said, though I wasn't sure I believed it. The pediatrician visit was humiliating. Dr. Patel was our pediatrician, a kind woman in her 50s who'd been seeing Lily since birth. I had to explain to her what had happened, had to say the words out loud. My mother-in-law has been breastfeeding my daughter without my consent. Dr. Patel's face remained professionally composed, but I saw the shock in her eyes. How long do you believe this has been happening? She asked. At least 3 or 4 weeks, maybe longer. She'd been watching Lily for short periods, and every time I'd come home, Lily wouldn't be hungry, even though she should have been. Dr. Patel examined Lily thoroughly, checked her weight, her development, her overall health. Physically, Lily appears fine. She's healthy, gaining weight appropriately, meeting all her milestones. However, I want to document this visit thoroughly. What your mother-in-law did is a serious violation of boundaries and consent. While it likely hasn't harmed Lily physically, the psychological and emotional implications for your family are significant. Can breastfeeding from someone else hurt her, health-wise, I mean? It depends. If your mother-in-law has any communicable diseases, those could potentially be transmitted through breast milk. Hepatitis, HIV, certain medications, all of these can pass through breast milk. We should run a full panel of tests on your mother-in-law to ensure she hasn't exposed Lily to anything harmful. The idea that Patricia could have exposed Lily to diseases made me feel sick. This violation kept getting worse with every new piece of information. "I'll write everything in Lily's medical record," Dr. Patel continued. "I'll note the timeline, your observations, and my examination findings. This documentation will be important if you pursue legal action." "Do you have to report this to CPS?" I asked. "I'm a mandatory reporter, so yes, I have to report suspected child abuse. However, since you're the one reporting and you've already taken steps to protect Lily, CPS will likely view you as protective parents. They may interview you, but I don't anticipate any issues." We left the pediatrician's office with documentation, test orders for Patricia to try to obtain, and an appointment for a follow-up in 2 weeks. In the car, Ryan said, "We need to tell my family." "Your mother hasn't told them?" "I don't know, but they need to hear it from us. They need to understand what she did." I dreaded that conversation, explaining this to people who loved Patricia, who'd known her for decades, who would struggle to believe she was capable of something so wrong. But Ryan was right. We had to tell them. Ryan's father, Tom, didn't believe us at first. "That's impossible," he said when we told him over the phone. "Your mother would never do something like that." "Dad, Sarah saw it with her own eyes. Mom admitted it." "There must be some misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding. Mom has been inducing lactation for months, specifically so she could breastfeed our daughter without our permission. That's assault of a minor. We filed a police report." Silence on the other end of the line. Then, "A police report? Against your own mother?" "Against someone who assaulted our infant daughter," Ryan corrected. "The fact that she's my mother doesn't make what she did okay. You're going to destroy this family over a misunderstanding." "It's not a misunderstanding," Ryan's voice rose. "Dad, she put her breast in Lily's mouth without consent. She's been feeding our daughter from her own body without telling us. How is that not a violation? She's a grandmother trying to bond. Grandmothers bond by holding babies, reading to them, playing with them. They don't secretly breastfeed them. That's not normal bonding, Dad. That's something deeply wrong." Tom was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Your mother loves that baby. She'd never hurt her." Love doesn't give you the right to violate boundaries. Love doesn't give you the right to do whatever you want to someone else's child. She's not someone else's child. She's family. She's our child, mine and Sarah's, not Mom's, and Mom doesn't get to decide how to feed her. The conversation ended badly. Tom hung up, telling Ryan he was overreacting and destroying the family over nothing. Ryan's brothers had similar reactions: disbelief, defensiveness, accusations that we were being dramatic or vindictive or trying to keep Lily away from her family. No one wanted to believe that Patricia had done something wrong. It was easier to believe that we were overreacting, that we were young parents who didn't understand how things worked, that we were being cruel to a grandmother who just wanted to help. The isolation was suffocating. Ryan's entire family turned against us. They rallied around Patricia, treating her like the victim, treating us like we were the problem. The detective assigned to our case was a man in his 30s named Detective Brooks. He came to our house 3 days after we filed the police report. "I've reviewed the initial report," he said, sitting in our living room while Lily slept in my arms. "I have to tell you, this is one of the most unusual cases I've ever worked, but that doesn't mean it's not serious. What your mother-in-law did absolutely constitutes assault of a minor. The question is whether we can prove it in court. She admitted it. She told me directly that she'd been inducing lactation to feed Lily." "Did you record that conversation?" No, I was too shocked. I just wanted her out of my house. Detective Brooks nodded. Understandable, but without a recording or written admission, it becomes a he said, she said situation, your word against hers, and her defense will be that she was simply caring for the baby in a natural, nurturing way. But she violated consent. I understand that, and I believe you, but a jury might not see it the same way. They might see a grandmother who loves her granddaughter and a young mother who overreacted. So you're saying we have no case? I'm saying it will be difficult, not impossible, but difficult. Here's what I recommend. We build the strongest case possible. We get statements from everyone involved. You, your husband, the pediatrician, the responding officer. We request medical records showing that your daughter was exclusively breastfed by you and that your milk supply was sufficient. We try to get your mother-in-law to admit what she did in a recorded conversation. You want us to talk to her? With police supervision, yes. Sometimes in these cases, confronting the perpetrator leads to an admission. People feel guilty or they want to explain themselves, and they say things that incriminate them. If we can get her to admit on record that she breastfed your daughter without your consent, we have a much stronger case. Ryan and I looked at each other. The thought of confronting Patricia again made me feel sick. But if it meant protecting Lily, if it meant ensuring Patricia could never do this to another child, okay, I said, we'll do it. The confrontation was set up a week later at the police station. Patricia came voluntarily, probably because she still didn't believe she'd done anything wrong, probably because she thought she could explain herself and we'd all see reason. Ryan and I sat across from her in an interview room. Detective Brooks was present, as was Patricia's attorney, a woman who looked deeply uncomfortable with the entire situation. Patricia, Detective Brooks began, thank you for agreeing to speak with us. I want to make sure you understand that you're not under arrest. You're free to leave at any time. However, this conversation is being recorded, and anything you say can be used in court. Do you understand? Patricia nodded, shooting Ryan a wounded look. I can't believe my own son is doing this to me. We're here to get clarity on what happened, Detective Brooks continued. Sarah has stated that she found you breastfeeding her daughter Lily without her knowledge or consent. Is that accurate? Patricia's attorney whispered something to her. Patricia's nodded, then said carefully, I was helping care for Lily. Sarah had left her with me and Lily was fussy. I soothed her in the way I knew how. By breastfeeding her? By offering her comfort. Breastfeeding is a natural way to comfort a baby. But Lily wasn't your child. You weren't lactating naturally. You had to induce lactation deliberately to breastfeed your granddaughter without her mother's consent. Does that sound accurate? Patricia's attorney whispered urgently to her again. Patricia's face was flushed now, defensive. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was bonding with my granddaughter. By putting your breast in her mouth without her mother's consent. It's not like that. How is it not like that? You deliberately, intentionally, with planning and forethought, induced lactation in order to breastfeed someone else's infant without permission. You did this repeatedly. You hid it from the baby's mother, and when you were caught, you justified it by saying the mother's milk supply wasn't sufficient, which medical records show was false. Does that summary sound accurate? Patricia's face crumpled. I just wanted to be close to her. I missed having a baby. My boys are grown. I'll never have more children. But Lily gave me a second chance. A chance to be the mother I wished I'd been. The mother who could breastfeed successfully. Lily wasn't yours to have a second chance with, Detective Brooks said quietly. She's not your child. You don't get a do-over with someone else's baby. Patricia started crying. I love her. I love her so much. I just wanted to bond with her. You can bond with a grandchild in many ways that don't involve violating their body and their mother's consent. Reading to them, playing with them, holding them, but you chose to do something intimate, something that belongs to the mother-child bond without permission. That's not love, that's possession. Patricia's attorney put a hand on her arm. I think that's enough. My client has answered your questions. Just one more, Detective Brooks said. Patricia, do you understand that what you did was wrong? That breastfeeding a baby without the mother's knowledge or consent is a violation? Patricia looked at Ryan, at me. Her face was a mixture of defiance and confusion, like she genuinely couldn't understand why we were making such a big deal out of this. I was trying to help. That's all I was ever trying to do. She still didn't get it. Even now, confronted with the reality of what she'd done, she still saw herself as the victim, the helpful grandmother who'd been attacked by an overreacting young mother. We left the police station with a recording of Patricia's admission. It wasn't a full confession, her attorney had been too careful for that, but it was something. Proof that she'd induced lactation deliberately, proof that she'd done it without our knowledge, proof that even now she didn't see anything wrong with it. The district attorney declined to prosecute. I'm sorry, the DA's assistant told us over the phone. I know this is difficult to hear, but we don't believe we can get a conviction. Your mother-in-law's attorney will argue that she was providing care, that breastfeeding isn't inherently sexual, that there was no ill intent. A jury in a conservative area might sympathize with a grandmother who wanted to bond with her grandchild. We could spend months on this case and end up with an acquittal, which would be devastating for your family. So she just gets away with it? Ryan asked, his voice hard. Not entirely. You can file for a restraining order in civil court. You can make sure she never has unsupervised access to your daughter again. You can tell your story publicly if you choose to, warn other mothers. But criminally, we don't have enough for a strong case. I'm sorry. We were devastated. We'd done everything right, reported immediately, documented everything, cooperated fully with the investigation, and it still wasn't enough. But we filed for a restraining order, and after a hearing where we presented our evidence and Patricia's lawyer argued she was a loving grandmother being kept from her grandchild, the judge granted it. The court finds that the respondent engaged in inappropriate behavior with the minor child, the judge said. While the court stops short of calling this behavior criminal based on the evidence presented, it nevertheless constitutes a violation of parental rights and consent. The court grants a restraining order preventing the respondent from coming within 100 feet of the minor child or the petitioner's residence. This order will remain in effect for 2 years, at which time the petitioners may petition for an extension. Patricia wept in the courtroom. Her attorney argued that this was excessive, that it was punishing a grandmother for trying to help, but the judge was unmoved. The respondent induced lactation deliberately and secretly in order to breastfeed a child who was not hers, without the mother's knowledge or consent. That shows a level of deception and boundary violation that the court finds concerning. The restraining order stands. We'd won. Sort of. Patricia couldn't come near Lily, but she also wasn't facing criminal charges. She wasn't being held accountable in the way that felt proportionate to what she'd done. The fallout in Ryan's family was nuclear. His father stopped speaking to him entirely. His brothers sent angry texts accusing him of destroying the family, of being controlled by his crazy wife, of taking away their mother's only granddaughter over nothing. She was just trying to help, one brother texted. You're punishing her for loving Lily too much. Ryan's response was simple. She assaulted our daughter. If you can't understand why that's wrong, then we have nothing more to discuss. We were cut off from Ryan's entire family. No more holiday dinners, no more birthday parties, no more family gatherings. They chose Patricia, and in doing so, they lost us. It hurt. Even though intellectually I knew we'd done the right thing, it still hurt to watch Ryan lose his family. to watch Lily lose her grandparents, her uncles, her extended family. But we had each other, and we had our daughter, and most importantly, Lily was safe. The hardest part was the therapy. We started seeing a family therapist who specialized in trauma and boundary violations. Dr. Ellen Richardson was in her 50s, a calm, thoughtful woman who'd seen everything in her 25-year career. What Patricia did, she told us in our first session, was a profound violation of trust and bodily autonomy. Breastfeeding is one of the most intimate acts between a mother and child. By inserting herself into that bond without consent, Patricia violated both Sarah and Lily. "But Lily's just a baby," Ryan said. "She won't remember this. Won't she be fine?" Lily won't have conscious memory of it, no, but trust is formed in infancy through consistent, appropriate caregiving. When that trust is violated, when someone other than the primary caregiver takes over intimate caregiving without the mother's knowledge, it can affect the child's developing sense of safety and security. The impact might not be obvious now, but it could emerge later in attachment difficulties or trust issues. The thought that Patricia's actions could have long-term effects on Lily made me feel sick all over again. What Sarah experienced is also significant, Dr. Richardson continued. The violation of the mother-child bond, the undermining of her role as Lily's primary source of nutrition, the dismissal of her concerns, all of this constitutes a form of psychological abuse. Sarah, you've been through something deeply traumatic. It feels stupid to call it traumatic, I admitted. Nobody died. Lily wasn't physically harmed. I feel like I'm overreacting. You're not overreacting. Your body, your milk, your intimate bond with your daughter, all of that was violated. Your mother-in-law literally took milk from your daughter's mouth without your consent. That's not small. That's profound. Therapy helped. Slowly. We worked through my feelings of violation, Ryan's feelings of betrayal by his mother, our shared grief over losing his family. We worked on communication, on making sure we were presenting a united front, on protecting our little family unit. Dr. Richardson taught us about boundaries, about the difference between helping and controlling, about how family roles can become twisted when people don't respect autonomy. Patricia saw Lily as an extension of herself, a second chance to be the mother she wished she'd been. That's not love, that's possession. Real love respects boundaries. Real love asks for consent. Real love doesn't take what isn't offered. 6 months after the incident, I was still struggling. I'd developed hypervigilance around Lily. I couldn't leave her with anyone, not babysitters, not friends, not even Ryan's one brother who'd quietly maintained contact with us, saying he believed us even if he couldn't say so publicly. The idea of leaving Lily with anyone made my heart race, made my body flood with adrenaline, made me relive that moment of walking down the hall and seeing Patricia with my daughter at her breast. "It's PTSD," Dr. Richardson told me, post-traumatic stress disorder. Your body experienced a threat to your child, and now it's in permanent protective mode. This is a normal response to what you experienced. "But I need to be able to function," I said, frustrated. "I can't be Lily's only caregiver forever. What happens when I need to go back to work? What happens if there's an emergency?" "We'll work through it," Dr. Richardson assured me. "PTSD is treatable, but it takes time and it takes practice, gradually exposing yourself to situations that trigger the anxiety while building coping mechanisms." She taught me grounding techniques, breathing exercises, how to challenge the catastrophic thoughts that flooded my mind every time I considered leaving Lily with someone else. "Your brain is trying to protect Lily," she explained. "It's saying, last time we left her with someone, something terrible happened. We can't let that happen again. We need to teach your brain that not everyone is Patricia, that there are safe people who will respect boundaries." We started small. Ryan watched Lily while I went to the mailbox. then to the end of the driveway, then to the corner store for 5 minutes. Each separation felt like torture. My body screamed at me to go back, to check on Lily, to make sure she was safe. But each time I returned and Lily was fine, a small part of my brain learned that separation didn't equal danger. It took months, but gradually I could leave Lily with Ryan for an hour, then 2 hours, then a whole morning. It wasn't perfect. I still had moments of panic, still had nightmares about finding Patricia breastfeeding Lily, still felt rage when I thought about what had been stolen from us. But I was functioning, and Lily was thriving, a happy, healthy 1-year-old who knew nothing about what had happened to her as an infant. When Lily turned 1, we had a small birthday party. Just us, my parents, my sister, and Ryan's one brother who'd stayed in contact. As I watched Lily dig into her first birthday cake, smashing frosting into her face with gleeful abandon, I felt the weight of the past year crash over me. We'd survived. Our little family had survived something that could have destroyed us. Ryan came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist, resting his chin on my shoulder. "She's perfect," he murmured, watching our daughter. "She is." "I'm sorry I didn't believe you at first. I'm sorry I dismissed your concerns. I should have trusted your instincts." "You didn't know." "I should have. You're her mother. You knew something was wrong." I turned in his arms to face him. "We can't change what happened. We can only move forward, and we are moving forward. Look at her. She's happy, she's loved, she's safe. That's what matters." "Do you think we'll ever have more kids?" Ryan asked quietly. "After everything that happened, do you think you could go through it again?" The question surprised me. We'd been so focused on surviving the trauma with Lily that we hadn't talked about expanding our family. "I don't know," I admitted. The idea of being pregnant again, of having another infant, of being that vulnerable again, it terrifies me. "We don't have to decide now. I just want you to know that whatever you decide, I support it. If you want more kids, we'll figure out how to do it safely. If you don't, that's okay too. Lily is enough. Our family is enough." I kissed him, grateful for his understanding, for his growth, for the way he'd stood by me even when it meant losing his entire extended family. "I love you," I told him. "I love you too, both of you, my girls." 18 months after the incident, Patricia violated the restraining order. She showed up at Lily's daycare. I'd finally gone back to work part-time. After months of therapy and gradual exposure, I'd managed to enroll Lily in a small, highly vetted daycare 3 mornings a week. The director knew our situation. She'd been briefed on the restraining order. She had Patricia's photo and explicit instructions to call the police if Patricia showed up. But Patricia was clever. She didn't come during drop-off or pickup when I'd be there. She came mid-morning when the kids were playing outside, and she approached the playground from the public sidewalk. She didn't try to take Lily, didn't even try to get close. She just stood there watching. One of the daycare workers noticed her and recognized her from the photo. The police were called. Patricia was arrested for violating the restraining order. This time, there would be consequences. The court hearing was brief but satisfying. "Mrs. Morrison," the judge said sternly, "you were issued a clear restraining order preventing you from coming within 100 feet of your granddaughter. You violated that order by appearing at her daycare. Do you understand the seriousness of this violation?" Patricia's attorney stood. "Your Honor, my client simply wanted to see her granddaughter. She maintained the required distance. The restraining order doesn't say she can look at the child from 100 feet away. It says she is to have no contact, direct or indirect, with the child. Showing up at the child's daycare and watching her play is contact. It's stalking. It's a violation of a court order." "Your Honor, my client is a grandmother who loves—" "Your client is someone who violated an infant's bodily autonomy and her parents' explicit boundaries. When the court attempted to address that with a civil restraining order rather than criminal charges, your client chose to violate that order as well. This shows a pattern of believing rules don't apply to her, that her desires supersede everyone else's rights. The judge looked at Patricia directly. Mrs. Morrison, I'm finding you in contempt of court for violating the restraining order. You're sentenced to 30 days in county jail, suspended to probation, with the condition that you have absolutely no contact with the minor child or her parents for a period of 5 years. If you violate this order again, you will serve the 30 days in jail plus additional time for the new violation. Do you understand? Patricia nodded, tears streaming down her face. I also want to note for the record, the judge continued, that the court finds your behavior deeply concerning. You seem unable or unwilling to understand that your granddaughter is not your child, that you don't have rights to her, that her parents' decisions about her care are final. I strongly encourage you to seek therapy to address these boundary issues before they destroy whatever relationships you have left. Patricia left the courtroom escorted by her attorney, shooting Ryan and me a look of pure hatred. We'd won again, but it didn't feel like winning. It felt like survival. 5 years after the incident, Lily was 6 years old. She was a bright, curious, loving child who knew nothing about what had happened when she was 3 months old. She knew she had a grandma on my side, my mother, who adored her and respected every boundary we set. She knew Ryan's family existed somewhere, but that we didn't see them. "Why don't I have a grandma on Daddy's side?" she asked one day. Ryan and I had prepared for this question. We'd talked to Dr. Richardson about how to answer when Lily got old enough to ask. "You do have a grandma on my side. Her name is Patricia, but she made some bad choices when you were a baby that meant we had to keep her away from you to keep you safe." "What kind of bad choices?" "She did something to you without asking mommy or daddy first, something that wasn't okay. And when we told her it wasn't okay, she didn't listen, so we had to make rules to protect you." "Will I ever meet her?" Ryan and I looked at each other. It was a question we'd been grappling with as Lily got older. "Maybe someday," I said carefully, "when you're older and can protect yourself, when you understand boundaries and can say no if someone makes you uncomfortable, but not now. Right now, our job is to keep you safe." "Okay," Lily said, accepting this explanation with the easy trust of a 6-year-old. "Can I have a snack?" Just like that, the conversation was over for her. But for us, it was never really over. Patricia never tried to contact us again after her court violation. The 5-year restraining order expired when Lily was 6, but we heard through Ryan's one brother that Patricia had moved to Arizona to be near her sister, that she'd started therapy finally after her arrest, that she'd told the family she regretted what she'd done, though she still didn't quite understand why it was so wrong. "She says she just wanted to bond," Ryan's brother told us over coffee one rare visit. "She still sees herself as someone who loved too much, rather than someone who violated boundaries." "Some people never get it," I said. "Some people are so focused on their own wants and feelings that they can't see the harm they cause." "I'm sorry," he said, "for not believing you at first, for not standing up for you when the rest of the family sided with Mom. You're here now. That's what matters. Do you think you'll ever reconcile with them? With Dad and the others?" Ryan was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. They made their choice. They chose to support someone who assaulted our daughter rather than believe us. That's not something I'm sure I can forgive. They think they were supporting a confused grandmother, not an abuser. That's because they didn't want to see what she really did. It was easier to believe we were overreacting than to accept that Mom was capable of something so wrong." I understood both perspectives. I understood how hard it was to believe that someone you loved, someone who'd raised you, was capable of profound harm, how the brain resists that information, finds ways to minimize or explain it away. But I also understood that sometimes protection requires cutting ties. that sometimes preserving your immediate family means losing your extended family. We'd made our choice. We'd chosen to protect Lily, and we'd do it again. Today, Lily is 10 years old. She's a happy, well-adjusted child. She does well in school. She has friends. She loves art and soccer and reading fantasy novels. She has no conscious memory of what happened when she was 3 months old. But I remember. Every day I remember. I remember the violation, the shock of seeing Patricia with my daughter at her breast, the rage, the helplessness, the betrayal. I remember the fight to be believed, to have people take seriously something that sounded so bizarre that it couldn't possibly be true. I remember learning that the legal system isn't designed for cases like ours, that something can be profoundly wrong, deeply harmful, and still not fit neatly into criminal statutes. I remember the isolation, the loss of Ryan's family, the price we paid for protecting our daughter. But I also remember the strength I didn't know I had, the ferocity of maternal protection, the willingness to burn down every relationship, every bridge, every connection to keep my daughter safe. I remember learning that I could survive something I never imagined facing, that trauma doesn't have to define you, even though it changes you forever. And I remember making the choice over and over again to put Lily first, no matter what it cost, no matter who disagreed, no matter how much easier it would have been to minimize what happened, to forgive too quickly, to maintain family peace at the expense of my daughter's safety. If you're reading this and something similar has happened to you, here's what I want you to know. You're not overreacting. If your gut tells you something is wrong, listen to it. Maternal instinct is real and powerful. Don't let anyone convince you that you're being paranoid or anxious or overdramatic. Breastfeeding is intimate and sacred. The bond between mother and nursing child is one of the most fundamental human connections. Anyone who violates that bond without consent is committing an assault, regardless of their relationship to your child or their intentions. Family doesn't excuse violation. Being a grandmother, aunt, sister, or any other family member doesn't give someone the right to do whatever they want to your child. Love without boundaries isn't love, it's possession. Document everything. If you suspect something is wrong, start documenting. Dates, times, observations, conversations. Take photos, get medical records, build a paper trail. You may need it later. The legal system is imperfect. What happened to us might not result in criminal charges. That doesn't mean it wasn't wrong. That doesn't mean you shouldn't report it. But be prepared for the possibility that the person who harmed your child won't face criminal consequences. Therapy saves lives. We couldn't have survived this without professional help. PTSD, anxiety, trust issues, these are normal responses to trauma. Get help. There's no shame in needing support. You may lose people. Some family members won't believe you. Some will minimize what happened. Some will choose the perpetrator over you. It's devastating, but it's also clarifying. The people who stay, who believe you, who support you, those are your real family. Your child's safety comes first, always, even when it's hard, even when it costs you relationships, even when people call you extreme or vindictive or crazy. Your job is to protect your child, not to keep peace or maintain family harmony. You can heal. It takes time. It's not linear. You'll have setbacks and triggers and hard days, but trauma doesn't have to define your story. You can survive this and build a beautiful life on the other side. Patricia is 70 now. She lives in Arizona with her sister. According to Ryan's brother, she's in therapy, working on understanding boundaries. She's never reached out to apologize directly, never acknowledged the full weight of what she did. Sometimes I wonder what she tells herself, how she narrates our story in her mind. Does she see herself as the victim, the misunderstood grandmother kept from her granddaughter by cruel parents? Or has she finally, after all these years, understood what she did? I'll probably never know, and I've made peace with that, because this story isn't really about Patricia. It's about me and Ryan and Lily. It's about a family that faced something unimaginable and survived. It's about choosing protection over peace. It's about the fierce, primal power of maternal love. It's about the fact that some boundaries are non-negotiable, that consent matters, even with infants, even within families, that your body, your child's body, the sacred space of nursing and nurturing, these aren't negotiable just because someone loves your child. I look at Lily now, 10 years old, brilliant, kind, strong, and I know we did the right thing. The hard thing, the thing that cost us family and peace and the easy path. But we kept her safe, and we taught her, by example, that boundaries matter, that she has autonomy over her own body, that love isn't an excuse for violation. Those lessons are worth everything we lost. Epilogue. Last week, Lily came home from school with a project assignment. Interview a family member about a time they had to make a hard choice. She chose to interview me. "What was the hardest choice you ever had to make?" she asked, recorder running, pencil ready. I thought about lying, about telling her some other story, some easier narrative that didn't involve her grandmother and trauma and violation. But Lily deserves the truth. Age-appropriate truth, but truth nonetheless. "The hardest choice I ever made," I told her, "was protecting you from someone who loved you but didn't respect you. It meant losing people I cared about. It meant being called mean names and being misunderstood. But I'd do it again in a heartbeat, because keeping you safe is more important than anything else." "Who was I being protected from?" she asked. "Someone who made a bad choice about your body when you were a baby. Someone who did something without permission." Grandma Patricia? She knew. Of course she knew. Kids are perceptive. They pick up on the gaps in family photos, the names that are never mentioned, the relatives who don't exist in their lives. "Yes." "What did she do?" I took a deep breath. "When you're older, I'll explain all of it, but the important thing is this: your body belongs to you. Nobody gets to do things to your body without your permission. Not family, not friends, not anyone. And if someone does violate that boundary, it's okay to cut them out of your life to stay safe." Lily was quiet for a moment, processing. Then she said, "Is that why you always ask before hugging me, even though you're my mom?" "Yes, because your body is yours. You get to decide who touches you and how." "I like that," she said simply. "I like that you ask." "I'll always ask," I promised, "because consent matters. Always." She wrote that down in her notes. My mom's hardest choice was protecting me. She says consent matters always. Lily got an A on the project, and I got the confirmation that everything we'd been through, all the pain, all the loss, all the hard choices, had taught our daughter the most important lesson of all. Your body is yours. Your boundaries matter, and the people who truly love you will respect both. That's the legacy I want to leave my daughter. Not the trauma of what happened, but the strength of how we responded. That's how we survive. That's how we heal. That's how we make sure the next generation grows up knowing their worth, their autonomy, their right to set boundaries and have them respected. Patricia tried to steal something sacred from us, but in fighting back, in refusing to accept her violation, in choosing Lily's safety over family peace, we taught our daughter something more valuable than anything Patricia could have stolen. We taught her that she matters, that her body is hers, that consent isn't optional even within family. and that lesson will protect her long after Ryan and I are gone.